I want to thank my daughter, Ms. Nicole Hawkins, for running our backside of the webinar. She will be presenting our guest in just a moment. Nicole, if you would uncover yourself, let everybody see your lovely face. I'm glad to have you with me tonight. I want to thank my daughter, Ms. Nicole Hawkins, for running our backside of the webinar. She will be presenting our guest in just a moment. Nicole, if you would uncover yourself, let everybody see your lovely face. I'm glad to have you with me tonight. I want to thank my daughter, Ms. Nicole Hawkins. There she is. That's the most beautiful girl I know in the world right there, Miss Nicole Hawkins. Presenting our guest in just a moment. Nicole, if you would uncover yourself, let everybody see your lovely face. I'm glad to have you with me tonight. I want to thank my daughter, Ms. Nicole Hawkins. There she is. That's the most beautiful girl I know in the world right there, Miss Nicole Hawkins. Presenting our guest. We're honored tonight to have with us Ms. Linda Clark and Ms. Elizabeth Renee Kennedy and Dr. Alfred Mcnair. At this time, Nicole will be reading the bios for them, beginning with Ms. Kennedy. We're honored tonight to have with us Ms. Linda Clark and Ms. Elizabeth Renee.
All right, do you hear that feedback?
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Okay. You want me to go ahead and start?
Yeah.
All right, so the biography for Ms. Renee Kennedy. Renee Kennedy has been a dedicated asset to nursing community for more than 3 decades by improving performance in healthcare and inspiring culturally enlightened change. Renee changed her AAS and LPN license from Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. She received her AAS and LPN license from Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. She's a member of the National Association of Directors of Nursing and is a licensed nursing home administrator. She has made significant contributions to patient care through her roles as a clinical consultant and director of nursing. During the 15 years as the director of nursing, she oversaw clinical and daily operations in a 60-bed skilled nursing facility, as well as developed philosophy, objectives, policies, and standards of clinical services and administrative programs. As a clinical consultant, she consulted and coordinated the clinical care, procedures, and quality assurance for 3 assisted living villages and 2 skilled nursing villages in central, western, and southern Mississippi and Arkansas. During her nursing career, she served as a formal infection control nurse, and in this role, she created and implemented policies that are still being used today. Renee currently works as a nurse on a medical telemetry floor, taking care of COVID positive and post-COVID patients. Outside of her professional career, Renee Kennedy is a mother and grandmother with a passion for cooking and traveling across the world. Her passion and stellar reputation in the kitchen led her to start her own catering company, using those healing hands to feed and nourish people from all walks of life. Even in the midst of this pandemic, she is using her nursing experience and skill set as a chef to continue missionary work in her community and ensure that our elderly haven't fallen by the wayside and been forgotten. That's Ms. Renee Kennedy. My next panelist is Dr. Linda Clark. Dr. Linda Clark is a native of Betonia, Mississippi. She's the 10th of 12 kids. She's a high school graduate of Murrell High School. She attended Tupelo College and graduated in 1971 with a bachelor's degree in biology with a minor in chemistry. She then enrolled at Xavier University, and in 1988, she received her bachelor's degree in pharmacy. She continued to excel academically and received her doctorate in pharmacy at 1994. She completed her residency at North Mississippi Medical Center. She has been employed with the VA hospital for 27 years as a clinical pharmacist. She is married to Dr. Lindbergh Clark, a practicing dentist in Gulfport. They are the parents of daughter Cherie and just recently the grandparents of their first granddaughter, Violet Amelia Armstrong Clark. And that's Dr. Linda Clark. And our third panelist is Dr. Alfred E. Mcnair Jr. He was born on February 23rd, 1952 in Pascagoula, Mississippi to Alfred and Irma Williams Mcnair. Dr. Mcnair resides in Goshen with his wife, Rhonda, with whom they share a family of 7 children, 10 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. With a strong sense of family and a belief in civic government, Dr. Mcnair remains faithful and anchored in his strong religious belief that caring for his fellow man is his calling. As a well-known and respected healthcare provider, Dr. Mcnair offers exceptional medical care to his patients. Since 1980, Dr. Mcnair offers outstanding leadership in supporting numerous faith-based and charitable organizations along the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Dr. Mcnair is a member of the Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church of D'Iberville, Mississippi. Dr. Mcnair's commitment is to make a difference in the lives of children and families who are in need of help or comfort. Dr. Mcnair's early educational experience began in kindergarten in Pascagoula, Mississippi. Later, Dr. McNair's parents relocated to Collins, Mississippi, from which he received his elementary and secondary education at Carver High School. At the age of 16, young Alfred was afforded an opportunity to attend Harvard School of Medicine as a summer intern, which ultimately inspired him to pursue his career in the field of medicine. Encouraged by his parents to continue in the field of medicine, both of which were educators, Dr. McNair enrolled at the Tougaloo College in Jackson, Mississippi, from which he graduated summa cum laude in 1971 at the age of 19. His achievements earning him numerous awards and scholarships. Dr. McNair went on to receive his medical degree from Columbia University College of Physicians and Surgeons in New York. Then he received the Franklin C. McLean Scholarship for being selected as the most outstanding African-American senior medical student in the United States. This scholarship is given annually by National Medical Fellowships in recognition of outstanding scholastic performance, leadership, and participation in community activities. In 1978, Dr. McNair completed his internal medicine fellowship at Columbia Presbyterian Medical Center in New York. Further, in 1980, he completed a gastroenterology fellowship at Stanford University in California. Dr. McNair's community involvement is the key to his endeavors and advocacy to improve local communities. His passion and study for autism awareness led him to open the doors to the Mississippi Center for Autism and Related Developmental Disabilities on February 23, 2011. The nonprofit center, located in D'Iberville, Mississippi, provides support services, education, and therapy for families with children who are impacted by the autism spectrum disorder. Also, in the many efforts to help the rebuilding and recovery efforts after Hurricane Katrina, Dr. McNair began to seek opportunities to develop a housing consortium for low to moderate families. As a result of his vision and dream, the birth of Savannah Pines of Ocean Springs, Mississippi was developed. This subdivision serves a home to many families that are now enjoying life within a cohesive environment of a safe, affordable, and inviting neighborhood. Dr. Alfred Mcnair Jr. was appointed to the Mississippi Institutions of Higher Learning, the board by the governor, Phil Bryant, in May 2015 to represent the 2nd Southern Supreme Court District for a term to expire May 7, 2024. This board provides oversight to the state's 8 distinct missionary-driven universities and will enhance the quality of life of Mississippians by effectively meeting their diverse educational needs. Dr. McNair's motto is serving Christ by serving others. And that's all of our 3 panelists for tonight.
Thank you, Nicole, for presenting our panelists. Tonight, we gathered to have a serious talk about COVID in the hood, more in particular about the vaccine. And I want to appreciate all of us who are with us tonight, those who are actually in the webinar and those who are with us on Facebook Live. Again, if you're on Facebook Live, we ask that you would share the link, with some of your friends. Tonight, we want to take a serious look at this health issue, and that's what the pandemic is all about, what COVID-19 is all about, is that we are facing a health issue. And in order to solve health issues in the past, we've used science, and we're using science to solve this health issue as well. Due to the nature of this health issue being a pandemic, meaning that it is worldwide, we've had to do some things a lot quicker than we normally would, but we didn't cut any corners. Dr. McNair is going to come and share with us about the vaccine itself and as the need for us to really take the vaccine from a medical perspective, being a medical doctor himself. At this time, we'll welcome Dr. Alfred Mcnair Jr. as he makes his presentation.
Greetings, each of the panelists, Dr. Clark, Ms. Kennedy, and Dr. Hawkins. Thank you for the opportunity. According to the Johns Hopkins Coronavirus Resource Center and the Guardian World newspaper, the death toll in this country now has surpassed over 150,000 people. As a matter of fact, it's up to 384,000 and climbing. It was predicted by Inauguration Day, which is January the 20th, that we would have over 400,000 deaths in this country from this virus. Most of us thought that was kind of ridiculous, but obviously they're right on line. There's over 23 million people infected by this virus in this country right now, and we're losing about 3,000 people a day. In the last two days of this year, we've lost over 4,000 people a day. It was stated the end of 2020, the last 3 days, over 10,000 people died from this virus. Hospitalizations in this country are astronomical, over 130,000, with the people getting sicker and sicker. So much so that the physician that runs the ER in Los Angeles and talking to the LA Times said we are in World War III. This is not to mention that there's even a more contagious variant of COVID-19 out there called B117. This virus is 50% more contagious than the virus we're dealing with right now. It was discovered in the United Kingdom and over in Britain, but it's recently been found in New York, in California, and Colorado, and Florida, and most recently it's been found in Georgia. So it's just a matter of time before it be in Mississippi. On reanalysis, over 2 million samples of serum from people who had COVID virus, it appears this virus has been in the United States since October, and it's becoming more and more widespread. So it's a matter of, at this point, not if you can get this virus, but if we don't do something, it'll be when you get this virus. It's there. Can you show the slide, Dr. Hawkins? This looks at as you know, we have the vaccine now. The vaccine is now available. I have slides just looking at the effectiveness of this vaccine. Can we slow the slides? Okay, this is the Pfizer vaccine. The lower line, and this is the Moderna vaccine. The lower line, the flat line, are those patients who received the vaccine and the incidence of infection there. The top line, the climbing line, are the patients who we call placebo, the patients who were not receiving the vaccine, who basically went through the study and to see how they respond just as a control. As you can see, this vaccine is about 95% effective, both vaccines, in preventing the virus infection and all of the side effects as far as hospitalization and death with the vaccine. Matter of fact, one member of our panelists was actually involved in this trial, and that's a problem because one of the issues in this country has been all the issues about the Tuskegee event, where basically unethical practices were used in vaccinating or doing experiments on people of color, and that's kind of so widely spread that it's kind of scared everybody to death. Here, we had people of color involved in this trial, which was a good thing. One of the problems we've had lately is when we've had trials, not enough Afro-Americans or people of color have been in those trials to be able to tell if those medicines really work on us or not. With this, we did have about 10% of the population of the study trial people who were Afro-American people of color. So we were able to see that we responded just as well as anybody else to these vaccines. So that's a real positive. And we have to get that information out there, that this was a positive result of us being part of this study And it shows that we, like everybody else, can prevent having this virus by taking the vaccine. We can take it down now. Thank you. Obviously, this has been a problem. I personally have received my vaccine about 2 weeks ago. I get my second shot next week. My 92-year-old mother has received her vaccine. I had a little sore shoulder. She had no symptoms with her vaccine. But this has become very personal to me. My 14-year-old granddaughter was a cheerleader at the Ocean Springs High School, was infected by this virus several months ago, and she is still sick. She still is weak and gets short of breath and still has a lot of symptoms. One of my key employees in the practice, was hospitalized several weeks ago, almost died. Matter of fact, the prayers to God and good work from the nursing staff at our local hospital here, he was able to pull through and is now at home. In addition, my best friend from college and also from medical school, in December of this year, lost both his mother, who was 96, and his youngest brother from this COVID virus. So people, this is very, very personal from my point of view. The Center for Disease Control says that healthcare disparities can lead to differences in healthcare outcomes. As we all know, we actually don't get this virus any more frequently than anybody else, but we do get infected with this virus. We are more likely to end up in ICUs, end up on dialysis, or die from this virus as a result of the comorbid of other underlying conditions that we have, such as the diabetes, the blood pressure problems, heart disease, asthma, and obesity, and sickle cell. You know, we understand the reasons for the mistrust, but people, we have to get over that. This is survival. The short-term, basically the clinical trials, from my point of view, personally encouraged me to take this vaccine. And there are some short-term side effects, which we may hear from one of the panelists who's actually in the study. You get soreness of the arm, usually lasts about 12 hours or so or more. Some people actually develop chills and fevers and fatigue, some muscle aches and pains. These are usually short-lived, 24 to 48 hours, and often respond to Tylenol and Aleve. But for the most part, everybody I've talked to have taken the vaccine and had some side effects. I'm still happy that they took the vaccine. The Mississippi Department of Health continues to try to distribute the vaccine to private providers and to the hospitals to try to increase the amount of vaccine available. I think some of you all may know that initially it was prescribed available for patients 75 and older and healthcare professionals. It was more recently opened up to those 65 and older, and also the people with illnesses that may make them more at risk for the infection, as well as our first responders, the police, the firemen, our teachers, correctional officers. So now it's kind of opened up, and that's become some of a burden on the system because we're kind of running out of the vaccine, the doses in the state right now. I think we have 52,000 doses left, but they are all spoken for. So we need to get signed up or lined up so we can get our doses in February when new vaccine shows up in the state. You can get that by actually going on the website for the Mississippi Department of Health.gov or calling a number that show up on our website later. But the number is 877-978-6453. Please be reminded, though, according to the CDC, that we have to continue to follow the guidelines. Wearing our masks, people. We have to continue to practice social distancing. We got to continue to do our hand washing and avoid large crowds. This is even after you get the vaccine. You need to continue these things because we're going to have to vaccinate at least 70 to 85% of the people in this country, or they're going to have the immunity by way of the actual infection in order for us to reach the so-called herd immunity. And this vaccine comes in 2 doses, 2 shots. It depends on which one, but you got to take both shots. The first shot gives you about 50% immunity. The second one gives you 95%. So please, when you take the vaccine, make sure you show up for the second dose. We have to remember this virus is ever present, and we got to adhere to our guidelines. And we got to remember that 40% of the people you see may have no symptoms at all. Your next door neighbor, the nurse that you're next to you, your associate may have no symptoms at all, but they can pass that virus to you. So we have to follow proper rules and guidelines, people. Anyway, I think that from our point of view, I've demonstrated how serious the problem is and also how effective the vaccine is. I think the Lord's given this vaccine, and I think I'll end by saying from Jeremiah 29, 11 to 13. This is from the New Living Translation. For I know the plans for you, says the Lord. They are for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and hope. So we have to continue to pray, people. We have to remember to give thanks to God, to the Lord, for He is God, and remember that His love endures forever. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McNair, for that presentation. And if you have questions for Dr. McNair, you'll put those in the chat, and we'll get to the Q&A. Then we will direct those to him at that time. At this time, I would like to bring Dr. Linda Clark, who actually participated in the study, is a participant in the study, and let us walk us through why she chose to do that and her experiences while being in the study. Welcome, Dr. Linda Clark, as she comes.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
We hear
ma'am.
you now. We hear you
Okay.
well.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Dr. McNair actually did most of my talk, but I entered the study on September the 8th. I have my background actually is research. I've done a tremendous amount of research. I started doing research while at Tougaloo College, continued at the University of Pittsburgh, which was basic research. And then I moved into clinical research, which was dealing with humans. Basic research is basically dealing with animals. So I have a tremendous amount of I have background in research, and that's where my passion lies in doing research. So when I learned that Pfizer was starting a site here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, I did not hesitate to join the study because I know the importance of research. And I know the importance of also African Americans participating in research. And it's understandable the apprehension, again, because of the Tuskegee experiment. So when I joined the research September the 8th, it's a randomized double-blind study. And what that basically means is neither the principal investigator nor you know which drug you're getting, whether you're gonna get a placebo or you're gonna get the active vaccine. So all the research conditions are the same. You get the initial dose, and then you get the second dose 21 days later. And then you follow the same as someone that received the active vaccine. Everybody is the same, and you don't know whether you got, again, the placebo or the actual vaccine. So when Pfizer got the emergency use authorization, I was unblinded on December the 23rd, and I actually received the placebo. Now, I kind of had an inclination that I did receive the placebo because usually if we think about our children, when we take them to get the vaccinations, they're gonna get fever, they can get fever, they can get chills, or just like Dr. McNair was talking about, or they may experience nothing. And so I kind of didn't experience anything. So I suspected that I did get the placebo, and that's a good thing, because when you take vaccines, you get the fever, you can get the chills, muscle aches. That means your body's immune system is reacting to something foreign, and that's just the natural way that the body works. So you really know that, you know, that's what actually is supposed to happen. So that's actually a good thing when you take your vaccines, Moderna or Pfizer, that this is a natural process that's going to happen. So that was, but I did not hesitate in joining the research study. I knew the importance, especially COVID-19. We're a Black community. We're 2.8 times more likely to have a negative outcome with COVID-19 as compared to white, to Caucasians. And so with statistics like that, I felt it was important for me to do this. So hopefully, we could get positive outcomes and hasten the development of, getting a vaccine on the market, which, could help in the prevention of COVID-19. And so I recruited my BFF, Maria Harrison, and she joined the study, I think about a week later, and she's going to talk to you about her experience. Maria?
Hey,
I can hear you.
okay. I'm Maria Jones Harrison. I'm also a pharmacist. I've been at Memorial Hospital at Gulfport for the last 15 years. And I actually, when I heard that they were going to be doing clinical studies in the area, I actually went online and applied for a couple, was turned down for one in Mobile, and they had openings in Gulfport. So I immediately joined the study there. Now, Linda and I both got our, what we thought were vaccines around the same time, but I experienced arm pain similar to what Dr. Mcnair experienced. So I kind of knew that I'd gotten the vaccine. And when they issued the emergency use authorization, I asked to be unblinded to see whether I got vaccine or placebo. And I actually did receive the vaccine. So I've had my vaccine since September, both doses of the Pfizer vaccine, which you take the first dose and then the second dose 3 weeks apart. And my reason for joining the study was both professional and personal, because I'm a caregiver to my 90-year-old mother. And what I tell people when they're anxious about taking the vaccine is, if you don't do it for yourself, do it for the people that you love, because if you can prevent them from undergoing some of the things that I've seen some of these people go through when they actually get COVID, and that can be preventable, and then I encourage you to go ahead and do it. So those are my experiences with the Pfizer vaccine so far. Since then, I've actually taken my mother, and she's had the first shot of her vaccine, and she experienced the same thing, arm pain. Otherwise, she's fine.
Hey, man, I want to thank Dr. Clark and Dr. Jones Harrison, for sharing that with us. And we're getting ready to go to Sister Elizabeth Kennedy. I want Renee to talk to us about the day-to-day and grind of actually taking care of COVID patients and what she sees right in the trenches, and give us our own personal experience with COVID. Welcome Renee Kennedy as she comes. Renee, you're gonna have to unmute yourself.
Good afternoon.
Okay, we hear you now.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank each of the participants on the panel for coming out and taking time out of your busy schedule, and each individual that are listening to us tonight. I want to come to you briefly talking about the daily impact of COVID-19 in the workplace. I won't endorse any one particular hospital, because the things that are going on at our hospital is going on worldwide. But on a daily basis, we talk about, I want to give you just a little briefing of, just imagine when you're out at Walmart or different stores and you see people pushing down around these little oxygen tanks. Those people on an average, oxygen come in liters per minute. Those people on an average of 2 liters per minute. When a person comes into the hospital and has to be treated with oxygen with COVID, they get 30 times that amount of oxygen. So imagine a tube in your nose with the high flow oxygen blowing in there continuously at 60 liters a minute. Or imagine having to be put on a BiPAP where there's a mask over your face. It's pushing air into your lungs and you have no control over it. These people are frightened, they're panicking. you know, there's not a day that I go to work that somebody doesn't die from COVID. So it crosses all racial, socioeconomic barriers, and all age group. Our people, when I left this morning, average age of our COVID people was 29 to 90 years old. Death has no particular age group, so they're dying in all age group. But us as a race of people are reluctant to take the vaccine, and I hear people say because of the Tuskegee experiment. So when I question them about it, that's all they know is because of the Tuskegee experiment, but don't know the history and the background with that. I got my COVID vaccine on December the 22nd, and there was about 200 people down there in line. And out of the 200 people, there were only 3 people of color, which was me and 2 techs that I encouraged to go down with me. They cannot discriminate with you by giving you this vaccine and altering your DNA as a race of color without doing it for everybody in the United States. So the fear is, yes, I might feel some discomfort. I might get some side effects. I did have a sore arm, but I came home and did just like I did with my flu shot in October. I took 2 Tylenol, made sure I had it in my dominant arm so I could be forced to use it. And that was the end result of that. I tell you, the risk, the benefits of taking this vaccine far outweigh the risk of a sore shoulder. Even if you got chills or a little fever, you know, you get that with a sinus infection. But death there's no way around the numbers climbing if we don't get this vaccine. I was looking at the news shortly before this webinar started, and the CDC says as of today, there will be 90,000 new deaths in the next 3 weeks. So that's 30,000 deaths a week for the next 3 weeks. I don't want you all to be in that number, and I definitely don't want to be in that number. I've had a very increased influx of people that I'm very close to and know personally who has experienced COVID in its severity, who family members have died. I had a good friend who lost 2 brothers from COVID in a 12-day period. So I ask you that you keep that family in your prayer. I have 2 daughters who's had COVID, 1 grandson. My oldest daughter who's had COVID still has the residual effect of COVID. She cannot go without oxygen. She has developed an interstitial lung disease as a result of it, and more than likely will become disabled as this process. So it has no age. It affects us as a race of people more because we often don't go to the hospitals like we need to. We often will listen to information on YouTube that meets what we want to hear. Guys, go on CDC and look at some of this stuff for yourself. I heard a lady the other day saying, you know, my cousin had it and all she did was put some garlic on her chest. Garlic is not the cure for COVID-19. You know, we have got to quit feeling bad and going and lay down. I see the average person that come to the hospital, when we do their admission interview, their symptoms have started 5 or 6 days before they come to the hospital. By now you're critical. So then you end up in the hospital 3 weeks, a month, 2 months. So when you see these symptoms early on, some people say, well, I didn't come because I don't have any insurance. I can assure you, if you go to the emergency room and don't have any insurance and you've got COVID symptoms, they're not going to turn you around because we need to eradicate this virus. We need to get it killed. We need to get as many people tested and treated as possible, as many vaccines done, so we can get rid of this. The vaccine is free. If you have insurance, they will bill your insurance for some places can charge you an administrative fee only for giving the vaccine, but they cannot charge you for the price of the vaccine. And those places, if they charge you for the administrative fee, they can bill your insurance for the administrative fee only. The people who don't have insurance, there's a grant that they can bill the grant for that fee. You're not paying for the vaccine. You're just paying if they set up a injection site somewhere and they need to get nurses or whoever to come in. So they're just paying for the administrative fee of that. They're not paying for the vaccine itself. Hospitals are overrun with COVID patients. Those people are your sickest, and they're going to get the first bed at the hospital. So what does that mean? That means that the other people who are coming in with COPD and other symptoms, they're going to be kept down in an emergency room until there's a bed available. Bed availability, when I left this morning, we had 32 people down in an emergency room, lying on gurneys, waiting to be admitted to the hospital, and some of them had been down there for 3 days. And another thing I want to touch base on, when you're dealing with people who've had COVID in your inner circle, a lot of times people look and say, oh, well, they look good, they're fine. Or you ask people, how you doing? Oh, I'm much better. But they're not thinking about the emotional and the mental aspect that leaves one with COVID. Because I got a man last night, 59 years old, won't go to sleep at night because he's afraid he's going to die in his sleep, but he'll sleep in the daytime. These people who've COVID positive, who've had severe symptoms from COVID, emotionally and mentally, they're still scared, and they still need your emotional support because they don't know if they're going to get COVID again. Every time they get a cold or a sniffle, the first thing I've had people say, well, this is how it started when I had COVID. I say that, I'm like Dr. Mcnair, if you don't do it for yourself, do it for your family. Do it for your children, your grandchildren. If we don't get this vaccine and get rid of this virus, our children and our grandchildren would not have a future. They would not have a future because our death toll is going to be so high that there is no future. You know, some of these grandchildren that have never been born, they'll never know what their grandparents look like, or never know what the hug of a grandparent was, or what their meal tastes like, because we feel like as an age group of younger people that's 40 and below, that it's not going to happen to me. Well, you know what? It might not. You might not get the disease with the severity of an 80-year-old, but what you will do, and has been done and continue to happen, is you would get that virus and you would take it home to your mother or your grandmother, and they'll be the one that die as a result of it. So please, people, let's continue to social distance. Please, let's wear our masks, and please consider getting the vaccine. You would never want to have that guilt on your heart and your conscience that you caused the death of someone that you say you love so much.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy, for sharing with us. Dr. Mcnair, there's a question about once we are vaccinated, do we have to get vaccinated again? Can you speak to that issue?
Well, you have to have two shots initially. The first one is followed either 21 or 28 days later, depending on which vaccine you have, Moderna versus the Pfizer. As far as how long you have the immunity for, that's being looked at because it's too early to tell. Some of the people with Pfizer are saying they may go out to 2 years. So it's a good chance we may end up having a repeat that vaccine every year or every 2 years. Not sure right now. It's too early to tell. But we do know we get immunity. And we also know the people who've actually been infected, the natural immunity maybe only lasts 90 days or so, some up to 6 months. So the recommendation currently is after you've had the actual infection, 90 days later, you should get vaccinated as well, because we're not sure that immunity is going to last much longer than 90 days. So anyway, that's the current recommendation.
Okay, you said in your initial presentation also that once we are vaccinated, that we need to keep up with the COVID protocol until we get to the 70th percentile herd immunity. Would you speak to that again for me?
Well, we think the vaccine may decrease the chance of you getting infected, but we're not sure. We think you may still get infected. We also don't know if you may end up being a super spreader, because you may not be sick, you may not get sick or get hospitalized, but you may actually carry the virus in your nose and that areas and be able to pass that to someone else. So that's a problem. So that's why we ask you to continue to follow the guidelines until we get 70 to 85% of the people either vaccinated or have had the natural immunity by infection, and they still also need to be vaccinated. Otherwise, you may end up being a super spreader and not just no symptoms yourself. You may fall in that 40% of people that we right now have that are super spreaders with no symptoms.
Okay, and that persons who have the virus and have no symptoms are called asymptomatic, and those are the ones you got to watch out for when you actually get vaccinated yourself. You still got to watch out for those super spreaders.
Well, you don't know who they are. They don't know who they are. They have no symptoms.
Exactly.
So that's why the recommendations right now is continue to follow the guidelines until we get to what we call the herd immunity. So that's the current recommendations. And then you got to remember, we talk about the United States. You got to vaccinate over 200 million people in the United States to get to that level, herd immunity. But this is a worldwide thing. You got a lot of folks out there. You've got billions of people going to be vaccinated or have the virus around this world in order for us to be able to be safe, because people travel, we travel. So you got to just protect yourself right now. And in the United States, over 200 million people are going to be vaccinated or have a natural infection in order for us to get, quote, to herd immunity.
We've heard that there are other strands that's being discovered. Do you have any information on those as to whether or not the vaccines are effective against those at this point, Dr. McNair?
Data we have is it looks like we are effective against those viruses. The problem with the RNA virus in the first place, it has a tendency to replicate fast, and basically one of the reasons why we've not been able to get a vaccine for hepatitis C, because it's an RNA virus. The good thing we have is because of all of the new science we have and all of the newer science we have is that we can keep up somewhat if things change. But currently, as far as we know, and that's being looked at by both the companies we know of and also the company in Europe, it appears that the vaccine is still effective against those viruses, the variant they're talking about, the B117. Now, in this country, it's a few other variants of the virus starting to develop. So we don't know how long that's going to be, but right now it is effective, as far as we can tell.
The vaccine itself, Dr. McNair, is what they call an inactive vaccine, where that it does not contain any COVID. That's correct?
This vaccine contains the protein of one of the little spikes of the virus. So it's not the virus itself. It's not the denatured virus like you have with polio vaccine, where actually you got the dead virus, the denatured virus. This is just a piece of protein that they have made the antibody, made the messenger RNA to, that then creates the ability of our body to develop antibodies to the virus. So you can't get the infection from the vaccine.
Yeah, that's what the point I wanted to bring out, because most people think about the flu vaccine, you give a little of the flu and then you build up the immunity, but this vaccine is not activated, so you cannot get COVID from the vaccine. I wanted to bring that point out to our group.
Yeah, Dr. Clark knows more about the interest as far as the science and stuff, because she's a scientist from that point of view. But no,
Dr. Clark, you can jump in here now if you want to. If you got something to add, jump right in. Unmute yourself for me.
Can hear you.
Just one point with these also the mRNA vaccines. They don't go through the process where patients are allergic to eggs. Like flu vaccines and other vaccines, they have the incubation in the eggs. You don't have to worry about that with the mRNA vaccine, which is Moderna or Pfizer. So people that have egg allergies, they can take these two vaccines. There are actually other vaccines that are coming out, but these are the only two mRNA vaccines. Next vaccine that will be given emergency use is authorization is going to be Johnson & Johnson, which is actually going to be a one-shot vaccine. It is the only one. The other vaccines are 2 shots, but they're not mRNA.
Do you know the potential efficacy of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, Dr. Clark?
I do not know the efficacy of the Johnson & Johnson, but The FDA was actually willing to accept 60% efficacy, and they would have probably given emergency use authorization. And when Pfizer and Moderna said 90-some%, it was just a game changer. But I'm, told it's probably going to be, but I do not know the efficacy of that one.
What's the normal efficacy of a flu vaccine?
40%, sometimes 50%.
Say it loud. Say it louder so they can hear you again. The flu vaccine efficacy is what?
Sometimes 30%, sometimes 40%.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
don't ever, I don't know, Dr. McNair, Maria, do we ever get a 60% flu vaccine?
Oh, that's why this is so unique. 95 or 94% is really unique. That's God sent.
Right.
And remember, the flu vaccine is based on the strains that are out prior to flu season in the United States. So it might have changed since then. By the time you get your vaccine, there may be another strain out. So that's why the efficacy is only like 30 to 50% for a flu vaccine.
Okay. A question is raised.
Tuskegee, which a lot of African Americans are very apprehensive. When you hear research, we're very apprehensive, which I understand that with Tuskegee.
Yes, ma'am.
But a lot of times, not only with COVID, we look at breast cancer. Breast cancer, we actually have the highest, the triple negative. Triple negative affects Black females more so than our white females. And there's really not a cure for that one. And there haven't been a lot of advances in terms of triple negative with breast cancer because we refuse really to enroll ourselves in clinical trials. Now that there are safeguards because of Tuskegee. Whenever you enter a clinical trial, you have to sign a consent form. So you must sign a consent form. Everything is explained to you, purpose of the study, possible side effects, etc. So those safeguards are in place because of Tuskegee and those consent forms, and they must contain certain information.
A question is raised. If I went to get vaccinated, and had COVID and didn't know I had COVID and got the vaccine, would that nullify the vaccine? Would I need to be vaccinated again? What would be the case with that?
No, it would not. In fact, we had at the VA, and anyone else can speak to this, we had one of our nurses that actually we have Moderna at my VA, got Moderna, and the next day he found out he was positive for COVID. So a lot of people in the ER, including patients, were exposed. So no, you don't have to do it again. He probably had COVID because they don't test for COVID before you get the COVID vaccine unless you have symptoms, unless you have a fever, then they possibly will test you and not give you the vaccine. But he had no symptoms. He was asymptomatic. He took the vaccine, so he does not have to be revaccinated again.
Okay. Question was raised also about running out of vaccines. The governor office said that it probably the 1st of February. Do we have any update as to when the vaccines be available again?
Well, I think they have 52,000 doses right now that's planning on be given out between now and in the next 2 weeks. And people have signed up for those doses, so basically they are accounted for. So a few other of the centers, some of the other sites may have some more, but that's what we know about through the health department. But they should have new vaccine by February. So I think we got people ready to sign up for February 1st. February the 1st. So the 1st of February, we ought to have more vaccine here. And one of the things the government does, if you use it, you get more. So all these hospitals really are pushing, and everybody has it, are pushing to try to get the vaccine out there, because that's going to allow them to get more in. Because the government, if you don't use it, they cut you back. So it's a big push to get that out there so we can get more in to treat everybody. But by February 1st, we should have more into the state, as far as our understanding, unless something else changes. Now, again, with the new administration coming in place, that might change. We don't know. They have to make sure, though, they have enough for everybody that's been vaccinated once to be able to get that second dose in 21 or 28 days. So they really can't give out that. So if you've been vaccinated, they're obligated to make sure you get your second dose.
But it's, remember now, there are other vaccines coming out. Johnson & Johnson will be out probably by the 1st of February. And then AstraZeneca will be right behind Johnson & Johnson. And so we will have at least 4 vaccines available probably by February. So, and then there's 2 other companies, I believe. There's probably going to be a total of 6 vaccines. And basically the difference is going to be, storage. Pfizer has the most stringent storage requirements, that they require -70 freezer. And the other vaccines does not have that storage requirement. And so, but there will be at least, by February, we probably will have, I know by February, probably 3, and Johnson & Johnson is very close to filing an application with the FDA. And then AstraZeneca is actually already being used in Great Britain, and it's also being used in India. So it has already, that vaccine, AstraZeneca, has already been approved and being used in those 2 countries. And so it's already being used, so just a matter of time. Now, AstraZeneca, unique about AstraZeneca is that they mistakenly gave 50% or half dose to the research participants by mistake. They gave half the dose that they found that supposedly they were supposed to give to their participants. The first dose, they made a mistake, gave half the dose. But what they found, that half dose, those participants had about 70% efficacy in a half dose. But they will be a 2-dose vaccine. But their mistakes, so with AstraZeneca, one of the differences is going to be storage, but the other difference is that your first dose and your second dose will be a different milligram, or different milliliter amount in that particular vaccine. So they'll probably be, both of those will probably be here by February. So we'll have 4 vaccines on the market besides the 2 that we already have. And then mRNA vaccines can be manufactured quicker than the other vaccines because they do not require the incubation time, because they're a little bit different. So you can, manufacturers can get those out a little bit faster. And the next administration that's coming in wants to rapidly, and that's very controversial, they want to rapidly vaccinate more people. So what they're talking about is not letting second dose medication vaccines sit on the shelf, just vaccinate everybody, because the manufacturers have said we will have enough supply for the second dose if you want to just go and mass vaccinate people and not let vaccines sit on the shelf waiting for a second dose when they can be utilized.
Dr. Clark, are you still in the study for Pfizer, or are y'all out of the study?
No, we're still in the study. Maria and I had to sign another consent form because now I have the active drug. So I had to start over again. I had to sign another consent form. So my first dose was December the 8th. And so my second dose will be, January the 8th. My second dose will be January the 29th. So I'm actually starting all over again. We will be studied, and Maria, you can correct me, for 2 years, because they're going to be looking at us and looking at how long do our antibodies last. And that's the second part of the study. They're going to be studying us for 2 years, and that is some information they will be gathering. Do we need a boost? And the other information, special population, pregnant women. Is this vaccine safe for them?
Children under 18.
Children under 18, exactly. I think Moderna gives 18, and Pfizer will give a vaccine to someone 16. 16 and above is Pfizer. Moderna is 18 and above.
So Linda and I have to go in at certain intervals and have our antibody levels tested to see how long this vaccine is actually effective. So hopefully we'll have that answer in 2 years.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that point out because, you know, the vaccine was developed in 8 months, but let everybody know that the studies are still ongoing to find out how long it's going to last and some other things. They haven't just quit working, what I want to point out, but with 95% efficacy, it gives us a better chance of surviving than not taking the vaccine at all.
And also,
Go ahead,
Reverend
go ahead,
Hawkins,
Dr. Clark. Yes, ma'am.
and I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
That's what people say. This was too fast. I hear people say, "Oh, this was too fast," or they'll say, "Did you get your shot? Did you get your shot?" Anyway, these are people I work with, but it really was not too fast. And Dr. Mcnair, Maria, you can speak to this. When China finally disclosed that there was COVID-19, they had actually already sequenced this virus. They knew what it looked like. They knew what the genetic makeup of the virus was. So when they finally was honest with everybody, they actually gave the gift to us, which was the genetic makeup of the virus. They gave it to the world. They shared that with the world. So every scientist, all they had to do was like, okay, I got the structure. So they didn't have to do that. So all they had to do was just try this, try that to see what would work. In terms of mRNA technology has been around they've been studying mRNA technology for about 6 to 10 years. They just did not, they just had not used it. They have been studying animals and et cetera, but they just have not. And they've been kind of thinking about developing a vaccine using mRNA technology, but scientists, there's someone at the University of Pennsylvania, been studying this technology for a while. Coronaviruses have been studied for some time. So, because the flu virus is not same as COVID-19, we won't make that mistake, but coronavirus has been around for a while, and there are people that study coronavirus, and they were waiting for the one that would be a pandemic like this one.
Thank you so much for that information.
Okay.
Are there any other questions from those who are with us in the webinar? If you would go ahead and put those in the chat. We're getting ready to come full circle. While we're waiting, I do want to again thank each of you who are literally in the webinar and all of us who are with us Facebook Live for participating.
How will you know which vaccine you have received? You want to get, when you enter a research study, if it's double blinded, that means that neither the investigator nor the participant or the research person knows which vaccine they have. So they code you with a certain number. They give you a participant number, and then they randomly flip a coin, and that number of that particular medication is matched to your research participant number. So the study is actually everybody's that's a healthcare worker has already been unblinded. I was unblinded. Maria and I were both unblinded December the 23rd. So she learned that she had the active vaccine. I learned that I had the placebo. It's kind of unethical not to unblind people when there is a preventive or vaccine that was developed. So you have to unblind everybody, but you don't have to give them, and Pfizer is going to give everybody the vaccine, but they are following the CDC protocol and that the health workers are first. So we've all, the next week or so, they will be unblinding everybody, but that's how we knew we had the active vaccine or the placebo. You have a participant number matched with a particular drug, a number, and then that's how you know whether your two contain the active vaccine or the placebo. So you have to be unblinded. Okay.
Okay, getting vaccinated. If I was in Single River or at Memorial, do they announce that they're giving out Pfizer or Moderna, or you just get there and you get a vaccine? Will they tell you which one you're getting? And also, is there a recommendation of one over the other?
They will tell you which one you're getting, because if you remember, there's a difference in the time that you have to go back to get your second vaccine. So if you have a Pfizer vaccine, you go back in 3 weeks to get your second one. If you have Moderna, it's going to be 4 weeks to get your second one. And no, you don't have a choice of which vaccine you're going to get.
Okay, so there's no choice. Okay, all right,
But
thank you.
you get the second dose is from the same vaccine though, right?
But yeah, you have to take both doses from the same vaccine. And the decision as to which vaccine your facility is going to get is going to be based on that storage. See, Pfizer, we don't have a negative 70-degree freezer, which is Pfizer. You have to keep it that way. So that will determine whether you'll get a Pfizer vaccine or not, whether you can properly store it to keep it active or to keep it stable. And if you can't, then you're not going to get Pfizer, okay? You'll get Moderna, or you'll get one of the others that's out there. You may get multiple, but any facility that does not have that negative 70 storage capability will not get a Pfizer vaccine. They will get all the others, because they don't have, if you don't have that freezer capability.
Okay, are there other questions for us? Okay, if you had COVID and you recover from COVID and you're having post-COVID side effects, when you take the vaccine, will that have any efficacy upon the post-COVID side effects?
I don't think we know that yet.
Okay.
I don't think we know that yet.
All
Yeah,
right.
I don't think we know.
That's the importance of the study, is continuing to find out those kind of things.
Right, exactly right.
And no, there's no benefit of one vaccine over the other. The one is 94% efficacious and the other is 95%. So
Okay.
they're basically the same.
All right. Okay, I think that's all the questions that we have. Look, I want to thank our panelists, and if y'all would, who are in the webinar, if you would just clap with me, you don't have to unmute yourself, but let's thank our panelists for a tremendous job. Thank you, Dr. Clark, for bringing Dr. Joan Harrison with you. That's been a definite blessing. We want to thank y'all for being our heroes for actually getting in the study, finding out what it would do to us. We really appreciate what y'all are doing. And I wanted our group to see that there are some of us who look like us who are actually on the front lines trying to save us. And so we really appreciate both of you for
I have one thing, Reverend Hawkins.
Yes, ma'am.
All the vaccines are probably, going to have a good efficacy. But I want to give a shout out to Moderna. They have the person that helped develop the Moderna vaccine looks like us.
Yes, ma'am.
The scientist is Dr. Corbett, who is a Black female that looks like us, a young Black female. She was right there helping to develop the Moderna vaccine. I'll give a shout out to the Pfizer vaccine. It was a female. She was Hungarian. She looked Indian, but she was Hungarian. But she was right there. So we have females kind of leading the charge of the first two vaccines. Okay, and one of them looks like us.
Realistically,
looks like us.
Realistically, Dr. Clark, we know we wouldn't be nowhere without women, so we thank y'all for being right there.
Okay.
Amen. God bless you. Listen, I want, Renee, if you have anything that you want to add, if you would do that now before we go.
Just want to say, everybody on the panel, if you would encourage 10 people to get vaccinated, and those people encourage 10 people, and those people encourage 10 people, just look how far we will be. One of the things that's concerned about is people saying that this is going to mess with their DNA. No, it's not going to mess with your DNA at all. I was playing Pac-Man with my granddaughter the weekend, and I thought about the Pac-Man game and how it runs around and eat up all the little things. Basically, once that virus is introduced into you get the vaccine, it's just in your body to tell your body to protect you. That's all it is. So if the virus try to come up on you, then it's going to be like Pac-Man. It's going to eat up these little things that's trying to just get into your system and destroy your cells. So you will not, whatever you are right now, you'll be the same thing when you finish with your vaccine. When people are saying, you know, I'm not going to take the vaccine right now, I'm going to wait and see what it does to you. I've had people to tell me that, and I know people in your workforce has probably said the same thing. You are not guaranteed to have that wait time. So don't try to wait around a year to see what it does to Dr. Clark and Dr. Harris and Dr. Mcnair and myself and all the other people who've taken the vaccine, because you could very well get COVID in the meantime and not make it to your next birthday. So you don't have a year to play with this, guys. We need to encourage each other. And when people are having old myth and wise tales about this vaccine, then I encourage you, implore you, each of you, to send them to the facts. You know, and if you can't explain it to them as much, to encourage them to say, hey, just go to the CDC website and you can get all the information that you need there.
All right, thank you. Dr. Clark, final.
No, I'm good. Celebrate MLK weekend. Get your vaccines.
Dr. Harrison, do you have a final?
Well, my husband tells me I haven't grown another ear or another nose, so he thinks it's safe. So go get your vaccine.
Dr. McNair, you have a final?
No, I'm just happy for this type of interaction. Thank you for setting this up, because hopefully it'll be very helpful for people to get the misinformation out there, so we can get the right information out there and get people vaccinated.
All right. Again, want to thank my daughter, Nicole. Y'all give my daughter, Nicole, a hand for helping her daddy. Amen. Amen. I wanted to point out Georgia Jones. Mama Georgia, wave at him if you will. She's one of my senior saints, and she's had her first shot, and they're getting vaccinated. We're getting in line. Do remind you, even though the vaccine is out, you can still contact places that are giving it and try to get on the waiting list to be ready when it does come. Right. 6'5" and above, and if you have comorbidities, you are qualified no matter what age you are. This is a health issue. We solve health issues with science. We pray God heal the land. God answered the prayer and put the healing in a shot. Take the shot. Take the shot. We need to get vaccinated so we can get back to doing things that we used to do. You want to go to the airport and fly to Cancun? Can't fly to Cancun until we get herd immunity in the entire world. Got to be safe here and in Cancun. And so you got to do your part to get ready to go to Cancun and Jamaica and all those places. And they got to do their part to be ready to receive you. This probably will be followed up with another real talk about the COVID vaccine at a later date. But I appreciate all of you for sharing. Do what Elizabeth asked us to do. Everybody try to encourage 10 people with the facts. Get rid of these myths and let's get vaccinated. I want to shake hand, hug necks, and be in church with everybody. But I ain't doing it until we are vaccinated and this virus is gone. So if you're tired of being virtual, start recruiting people to get vaccinated. I love you, and I appreciate my panelists so much. Thank y'all so much again. Everybody be well, be safe, be vaccinated as soon as possible. Love you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can unmute yourself now and thank our panelists on our way out. That'll be perfectly all right for those who are actually in the webinar. If you want to give them a personal thanks, we'll give you time for that.
Thank you, doctors.
Thank you, doctors.
Thank y'all. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, doctors.
Reb Hawkins for always going the extra mile for being not just unions leader, but for being a community leader. And we love you for that.
Amen.
Love you guys.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you all.
Amen.
Thank you all so very much for your time.
Amen.
Nicole, I'll give you a call when this is all over, okay? Love you.